All right, so I'm a pharmacist who works about once a month, and I have 16 rentals, and I also run a property management company and a coaching company to help people buy Airbnbs and actually retire within 2 to 5 years with rural rental real estate, which is kind of a newer thing. Most of the times, people will buy Airbnbs in big, like suburbs or cities like San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Houston, Austin, bigger cities. But I personally like to go in the rural areas, and here's why. So when I first bought my Airbnb in Joshua Tree, California, it was kind of a newer thing. It wasn't really well known. People didn't understand the business, but nowadays, because people have been making lots of money like the past couple of years, and they understand that you need a really good design, you need really good amenities. It's pretty much common knowledge. So the barrier to entry for Californians who have tons of equity and tons of money in like Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, they're bringing like millions, like multi-millions of dollars to the San Diego Airbnbs. And being a millennial who doesn't have that much money saved up, or I can't just pump all my money into one property because I'm trying to buy multiple properties per year that cash flow well, I decided to move to another state. And that first state ended up being South Carolina and then West Virginia eventually. And those Airbnbs do quite well. A lot of people over there are used to buying homes at around like $100,000 to $200,000. So that's pretty normal. So they're not used to these crazy $1.2 million homes, and they don't have all this equity tied up. Nowadays, now with internet and common knowledge, it is starting to like kind of slowly creep up. So it won't always be good the way it is right now, like the way I have it going in my short-term rentals. But for now, November 2024, I recommend it to everyone because you could buy these Airbnbs in rural locations for around $200,000, and then you can rent them for pretty much about the same amount as I do in Joshua Tree or my home in San Diego, and then it ends up being more on an average annual basis. So imagine you invest, I don't know, $50,000 into a garage conversion in San Diego. You got to get permits. It takes maybe about 4 to 6 months, and maybe another like 3 months to build it out. Ends up being about 9 months probably to have a garage conversion. Those usually take about like $50,000 to $70,000 to actually convert. But you also have holding costs. So during those 9 months, you lost about maybe like say $2,000 every single month on that rental, and that's the best type of deal I can personally like find in these expensive markets like San Diego, California. If you're not like flipping or something like that, flipping still works over here, but I personally just want to collect six figures instead of like flipping and paying taxes on six figures, which is why I went the buy and hold route. I think it'll when we get the appreciation, we can go and just do our cash out refinances, and that works out just fine. And if everyone's like, oh, well, we need some active income, technically your Airbnb could be active income too, because you can do multiple properties. You could do secondary vacation home loans. You can use a Rabu market finder tool to discover other markets that are around like $200,000. You could use a 10% vacation home loan, so $20,000 invested, and then make $20,000 back within the same year. And then you can fund the furniture and the design fees and all that crud with 0% interest credit cards. So we actually have been exploring that quite often with our students. So we're getting a lot of them larger lines of credit so they can fund their furnitures, and they can have these successful Airbnbs that are pulling in $70,000 to $120,000 on a home that costs $200,000. And I really like this strategy right now. Again, it works because it really fits in with like way things are going. Like people want a simplified life. They just want more time to themselves. And no one wants to really learn how to like syndicate, or not everyone has like millions of dollars to invest in rental property in California. And when you do actually invest in rental property in California, a lot of times it just ends up being around like 12% returns, which at that point, honestly, I might just want to buy like dividend paying index funds, or just like index funds, and then save up as much as I can. So that's why I'm not a big fan of buying rentals in California specifically. And it's honestly hard to save enough for a down payment in California. I was a doctor of pharmacy. I made $170,000 every single year on my best years. No longer doing that. I work once a month, so nowhere near that. But even at that income, it was really hard to get qualified, first of all, for $1 million home. I was only qualified for $450,000. But it's also hard to save for like the down payment, the furniture, the design fees and all that stuff. And by the time like I could afford my very first Airbnb, unless I got super savvy or if I partnered with someone or unless I arbitrage, I wouldn't have been able to own 16 homes like I do now if I was trying to buy only in California, which is another reason why again I like these other markets. And what's also super cool um, about buying in West Virginia and Kentucky, Ohio, Florida, you can buy these $200,000 homes, and normally because it's so far from California, all the Californians with all the money, most of the times they're afraid to buy in these places because they don't understand long distance real estate investing. Where luckily for me, I read the books by David Green and I understand that hey, when one market starts to turn around, it doesn't scare me, and all I'm gonna do is just move my money to a different market. And that's the beauty of understanding long distance real estate investing. So if you understand the tools, you understand how to underwrite a deal and know that, hey, $200,000 home, $1,000 mortgage payment, plus maybe like another $2,000 in expenses, ends up being like $36,000 over 12 months. And if your house produces $70,000 or $120,000, you get to net the remaining. And it's even cooler because say you buy like 5 of these homes. Now you technically and you get the normal $70,000. You net $35,000 times 5, so it ends up being almost $170,000, which is enough to replace my pharmacist income. And if you don't want to pay taxes on that, real estate's super tax advantage. You just have to keep on buying more rentals, and it'll stack. You get more cash flow, and at the point where like, hey, these homes are no longer $200,000 because real estate generally appreciates on a 4% average annual basis, you can cash out if you'd like, or you can just pay them all off and have a small and mighty portfolio like Coach Chad Carson always explains you should do. Because again, with 5 $200,000 rentals, you could technically replace $170,000 income, and that's all it really takes if you're willing to do some of the work, willing to do the study, and just be open-minded versus saying, hey, California is the only way to go, or Florida is the only way to go, Texas is the only way to go. You can track like visitors to these national parks where I like to buy next to. So if you want to go to like the National Park Service, it's very obvious that you can tell like, hey, you're going to have 2 million visitors here. There's only 600 rentals in the area. There's a huge lack of housing available. And for that reason, it's likely it's going to stay booked out. And you can also look at like the resorts in the area. If the resorts are getting booked out, just compare it. Be like, hey, if I can just make it look as nice or hopefully at least outcompete them, you'll get their secondary bookings. And when you're in places like New River Gorge National Park, where I see Ace River Sports Resorts, they get crazy bookings for their rentals during high season for like $1,000 per night. And no offense to them, but they're not the greatest looking rentals in my opinion. They could definitely use some love, and I bet you if they did put some more love into it, which honestly they don't really need to, they're always booked out. But if they did, they could probably charge maybe like $2,000 per night, and people might pay for it for the convenience of being next to the resort first of all, and just sleeping so many, and then that'd be good for us too as landlords, because if someone can't afford $2,000 per night, then they'll pick up our place for $1,000 per night during high season, which I'm super stoked about. So overall, the strategy I think that I would recommend to people, I'm going to try to keep this short today, but keep an open mind first of all. So if you're struggling and you think it's impossible to buy a house, consider investing elsewhere. Take a road trip to one of these places like these national parks like West Virginia. Go to like the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. Go to Greenville, South Carolina, and see how beautiful it is. Check out Jacksonville, Florida. It's one of like the biggest growing cities. You can still find affordable homes for like $160,000, and it's a little bit more north of Florida, so it's not actually like near the Gulf where the hurricanes hit so often. Yeah, you're gonna get hurricanes, but overall, it's still like a relatively safe place. And everyone deals with issues no matter where you're at. So if you're saying like, oh, California doesn't have any natural disasters, we get earthquakes on like a daily basis, and people are like, oh yeah, but earthquakes are like insurable and all that stuff, and it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't get really bad. But if you think about it, there's always a black swan no matter where you go. Like it could be a black swan in Florida where you have some freak hurricane that wipes out the whole state. But if you guys didn't know, Southern California is actually like past the fault. So if the San Andreas fault ever collapsed and like tectonic plates like slid down, the high desert would now be beachfront property and we'd all be dead. So if you're thinking that like, oh, California is the best place to invest, it might be if you live here because you'll be dead with the tectonic plates actually slide in, and then you have bigger problems to worry about. But if you're in the East Coast and you're trying to invest in California, and you're still alive and you just have all your properties in California, you just lost it all. And it's very hard to like ensure all these properties are like a million plus. And plus, like they say, oh, FEMA's going to take care of you. Look what happened with like Milton and Helene. I mean, they're saying that FEMA is actually out of money. So no matter where you go, there's going to be these risks. You go to Oklahoma, there's going to be tornadoes. Colorado, you deal with like snow and like more wear and tear on your properties, the coldness. And you just gotta place your bets sometimes. Like if anyone tells you that there's one surefire way to make money in real estate and there's no risk, you should probably look the other way, and they're probably full of BS. So just keep that in mind. But for me, the strategy that works best for me and that feels quite risk free is buying these more affordable homes. Again, $100,000 to $200,000, put 10% down. Hopefully, do a little bit of work like painting carpet because that usually means there's some value add in there, but you don't have to. You could buy it turnkey. And if you do 10% down on a $200,000 home, it's maybe $20,000, $9,000 for closing costs because that's just what we're getting quoted nowadays, and banks need to make money somehow. And usually on these lower cost loans, it's a little bit more expensive for closing costs. So that's $29,000. And say you want to hire a designer for maybe $18,000 and you want to buy $30,000 worth of furniture. Ends up being about $50,000. Hopefully, if you have a decent credit line or a credit score like 720 plus, and you have a good relationship with your bank, you can get 0% credit cards built up before you actually start buying and investing in these places. And then you essentially have free furnished furniture for 12 months to 15 months or however long your terms are. And worst case scenario, you can get like some sort of personal loan. I did 401k loans. I did credit card special promotional offers. I did private money loans with my friends. So if you do like $50,000 borrowed at 12%, it's only $500 per month. And 500 times 12, that's only $6,000 every single year. And you're making $70,000 to $120,000 a home. It should be pretty much a no-brainer to buy these homes. And the cool thing about rental real estate is like, yeah, you bought this home, say you didn't have much value add, but eventually you pay off all those credit cards and your design fee, that $50,000 is gone within like a year and a half. Or if you want to just keep on extending the 0% interest, that's totally a thing. Apparently, I found out you can actually open up 0% credit cards under the same entity like 3 times. So you can keep on increasing your line and actually extending it, which is super cool hack if you're just starting out. But yeah, you can extend it or you can pay off all those credit cards. You can pay off your private money lenders. You can pay off your mortgage if you really want to. And now you just have a home that produced like $70,000 and you have really low expenses. Maybe you have 3, and after all expenses, they each make $50,000. You're going to have another $50,000 every single year investment. You have 3 of them and you're living good. So the small and mighty portfolio works quite well if you want to just travel the world, be a nomad, spend time with your parents, your friends and family. And that's why I think it's one of the most underrated strategies. And people really need to consider this.